Hello, Wisconsin Lutheran College student athletes. Welcome back. So my name is Mike Ensley. I am the new head men's volleyball coach here at WLC. I am also part of our compliance department. So you guys will probably get to know me a little bit over your time here. This year, with my specific background in the medical sciences, I am in charge of the COVID-19 compliance component to this class. I'm going to kind of be your go-to guy if you need to talk to me about anything, testing, those types of things. Your coaches would coming to me as well. I'm kind of the one that's in charge of all this. So as you may know, COVID-19 has changed quite a bit of things in our life. Our normal life is a little different than it used to be. And that's not going to be any different with your sports this year. We're going to have a couple different guidelines that you're not used to. Sports are going to look a little bit different, at least for the majority of the semester. But everything we're doing is to keep you safe and to keep us here so that we can play and compete and be with our friends. The NCAA put out this large document talking about the resocialization of collegiate sports. So in this, they did a bunch of different guidelines to try to keep you coaches, you safe, us safe, and so that we can still have some competition and some practices during the fall. So in this guideline, they designated different sport classifications based on their ability to transmit COVID-19. We'll talk a little bit about COVID testing at each of those levels and how we can remain active during this fall season. So first, sport classifications. So the COVID-19 advisory panel with the NCAA separated sports based on their risk potential to be infected with COVID-19. There's the low contact risk, medium contact risk, and high contact risk. Low contact risks, as you can see, involve golf, tennis, and track and field. So those sports are typically outside, a little bit more independent. You get some decent separation, and most of the restrictions that they're putting, you can still compete fairly easy with them. So that's why it's designated as a low contact. Medium contact, you can see they're still outside sports. There's a little bit more ability for you to contact because there's times where you'll be closer than 6 feet from each other, like baseball, softball, and cross country. And then the high contact risk sports, basketball, football, soccer, and volleyball. Those are ones where you're going to be very close to individuals, so your social distance, your physical distance is going to be off. And so there's still a higher probability that you could be infected with COVID-19. So based on those different sport classifications, they wanted to make sure that we keep everybody safe. And so they put down a testing paradigm for each level. You'll notice at low contact, medium contact, and high contact, and this is going to be very important. Every day you're going to have to do something. So on our ATS app, which I'm sure you're all well aware of, there's going to be a checklist. Every day before practice or competition, every day, you'll have to submit the symptom checklist. So it's going to ask you for a variety of symptoms. If you're experiencing those at all at that point in time, you'll have to fill that out and submit it. Those submissions then go to your coach to be able to verify that you have completed that checklist. In addition, when you arrive to practice, you will have your temperature taken with one of the thermal guns to your forehead by your coach. You cannot participate in practice unless you have submitted those symptom checklists and your coach has taken your temperature. That's very, very, very important. In addition to that, the NCAA has regulated that we'll need to do some sort of nasal swab for determining COVID infection. This is not the swab you're thinking of where it feels like it's poking your brain, going all the way back into your nose. We got approval to use what's called a lower nasal swab. So you're essentially swabbing your nostril. It's not any different probably than picking your nose. So when we do this test, and we'll show you when you come, but you'll take basically a Q-tip, you'll swab the nostrils, and you'll put it into a tube, break it off, and then you'll hand it to one of the medically trained people who will be collecting the samples. And typically we get the tests in about 24 hours to know whether or not you have infection or not. So just know there'll be more about this when that time comes. But for low contact sports, we only need to test using a swab when you're showing symptoms. So there's no other testing parameters for low contact sports, which is going to be key for us to practice in this fall. Medium contact sports, we'll have to swab every 2 weeks when you're at your contact level, which again, we'll talk about a little later. And it's about 25% of your roster. So cross country, baseball, and softball, that will be your testing paradigm when you're, participating at your contact level. High contact level, we are not going to have outside competitions for high contact sports in the fall. So our testing then defaults to what the NCAA states for contact level, mixed with the local authorities and then the schools. So we're still going to do testing. It's, it could be as much as once per week, but we're still determining how frequently that's going to be for the high contact sports. So as I was saying before, just because you're a high contact sport or a medium contact sport, you can participate in activities that are considered low contact or low contact sport. So this will help mitigate any kind of potential for infection. The biggest thing, and we've probably been hearing this for a variety of things, physical distancing, very important. 6 feet of distance between individuals, whether you're inside or outside. Typically those bigger sports, football, soccer, you're going to probably be put into what they call pods. So 10 or fewer people is the recommended numbers. You may go a little above it, but for the most part, you're going to be sticking in smaller groups. You won't be able to have big groups. You won't be able to scrimmage, any of that stuff during your low contact days, which is for sure the first 2 weeks of the season. And it could be more, or it's probably going to be more. The second thing is masking. Again, this is stuff you guys have probably been seeing and having to do in your normal life, but it is important that you have a face cover as well. So you have to maintain 6 feet of distance and have a face cover. Right now we're just saying face cover, so it can be a mask, it can be one of the gator face shields. So you'll have to have that on. As cumbersome as it is, you'll have to have it on. If you're participating in the team activity. If you're on your own, if you're individual, we are saying that you can go without the masking. But if you're as part of a team and part of a pod, we are asking that you do wear a mask. In addition, the SBC and the fitness center, so if you're doing workouts, strength and conditioning downstairs, you are going to have to wear a mask or face cover as well. And the last is sanitize. So make sure you bring hand sanitizers, or you're washing your hands as frequently as possible. You can't really high five or any of that stuff because it's close contact, but make sure that you are sanitizing or washing your hands. Make sure you avoid touching your face too. This is important when you're sweating. We'll have to try to figure out what we can do, whether it's rubbing your arm on your forehead to get rid of the sweat, something of that nature. Additionally, coaches are going to be sanitizing equipment. You may have to assist with that sanitizing procedure, but that will be the coach's responsibility to try to figure out how to do that. So that's all I have. Be safe, have fun. We're glad that you're back, and go Warriors.